Let's go to Shakira real quick.
I was introduced to her by Maluma, actually. She's a genius. And if you send her the track without doing that, she'll notice it. If you go to my place, like I have no plaques on my walls. I have no Grammys on my wall.
You know, you're nominated for Songwriter of the Year this year. What's it like to see your art be the biggest art in the world?
I'm living the dream, the American dream. It's possible.
Welcome to And the Writer Is. I am your host, Ross Golan. There are millions of singers and thousands of artists, but only 40 songs per genre at a time. This podcast aims to shed a light on those creators who make those songs. I produce this with my friend Joe London in association with Mega House Music Group. Special shout out, Charlotte Isidore, Jad Saad, and Michael White. And you can follow us at And the Writer Is on all your socials. We'll see you there. Now, this week's episode. Welcome to And the Writer Is. I am your host, Ross Golan. Today's Latin legend has quite literally changed the music business. With an ear for timeless melodies and a deep understanding of rhythms that make people dance, this pensmith has crafted hits that transcend borders and break records. From regional Mexican to reggaeton, pop to bachata, his versatility has made him one of the most in-demand collaborators in the game. Oh, maybe it's because he has like 26 or 27 Grammys. His ability to blend tradition and innovation made 3 of my top artists on Spotify Wrapped last year. All the way from Miami and Texas, this new father is a real family man. And the writer is Edgar Barrera.
Oh, man. What an introduction, man. Thank you so much for that. Legend? I wouldn't say legend. No.
The thing is, like, you're so, but we'll get into your story, but you're so humble. What's the number of Grammys where you stop being humble?
You asked me earlier how many Grammys were they, and I actually don't keep track of stuff like that, nor like number ones and stuff like that. It's just like I feel like the reasons why I'm into music or writing songs is not for like a recognition of an award. And for me, like if you go to my place, like I have no plaques on my walls. I have no Grammys on my wall, like in my studio. It's just like music and just like my spot, you know what I mean? And I try not to get that over my head, and it's something that I leave that, like, you know, for my family. Like I gave the Grammys to my mom, my dad, and the plaques are all like at my parents' house too. And yeah, so it's a thing.
Do you celebrate?
I'm always working. That's a really interesting question because the other day I was in the studio and this artist asked me a question and told me, like, what do you do for fun? I'm like, music, writing songs, and producing stuff. And she was like, yeah. But I mean, aside of music, like, what do you do?
More music.
I'm like, no, just music. And that's when I realized, like, wow, like I have no, like, I don't do any other thing than this. And I usually I try. Yes, I mean, I probably like a celebrate. I don't have too many friends. I'm like very like a small circle. I do go out with my family a lot, with my wife and family. But yeah, maybe yeah. That's an interesting question. Yeah.
When you're younger, and I want to get to the beginning, what do you do it for? Like, who do you listen to your own music when it's out?
When it goes out, I don't listen to the music, but I'm listening to the music while I'm making the music. And that's another thing that stuff that I listen to, I'm very like, when I like hop into my car and drive somewhere, I'm listening or finishing a song, or just like listening to the demo of the song that we just wrote to try to make it better, or what can I do for this song to be bigger, or and yeah, like I listen to a lot of old stuff. Like I have a huge vinyl collection at my house that I do have. Like if you go to my house in Miami, like there's like the dining room is just like a huge wall of just like old records.
What is to you I'm gonna preface this. My Spanish is so bad, but like, is it like Vicente? Like when you think of old, is it especially when you talk about regional Mexican music? Are you listening to old regional Mexican music,
Everything.
or or are you listening to Motown?
A lot, yeah. Because I just buy like lots of vinyl boxes from just like eBay, or I just go to
And whatever's
OfferUp.
in it is
Whatever's
whatever's in
in
it.
it, I just explore it. And like every morning, I wake up and the first thing that I do, like I'm making coffee, I'll just go to the collection and just like dig into it and grab whatever album I just like find. And if it's the less popular the artist, the better for me, because
Right.
I like to kind of like discover new stuff, if I,
Or
if you know what I
discover
mean.
old stuff.
Or discover old stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct, discover
yeah.
old stuff. And it's
Yeah.
usually like a lot, yeah, like you said, like Vicente Fernandez is I have a huge like a lot of those records. Jose Alfredo Jimenez is another, like he's one of the best songwriters in Mexican history. And a lot of his stuff, a lot of Juan Gabriel stuff, which is another, he's a legend. Like I think Netflix is just doing like a documentary on his life, and he's like all of that stuff, and even like Miles Davis stuff is just maybe just like a trumpet playing, in the background of whatever I'm doing, like answering emails or doing stuff. Because my day also, try to start off my day like trying to get rid of all my label stuff, because I have a label and a publishing company too, and it's like taking care of my people, my artists, my writers, to be doing whatever they want to be doing. And then the rest of the day I try to focus on my stuff, like writing and producing stuff.
NMPA is the premier organization for music publishers and their songwriter partners. It's their mission to increase the value of music, and that's exactly what they do. NMPA is working right now to raise royalty rates for songwriters from streaming services, radio, social media, and everywhere music is essential. From the courts to Congress, NMPA works to get songwriters what they deserve. I know because I've served on the board before, and I'm the current co-chair, along with Ryan Tedder and Liz Rose, for the Golden Platinum Club. So again, thank you NMPA for supporting And the Writer Is and songwriters everywhere. I have the same problem where my hobbies are more music, and I think part of it is because different kind of music opens up a different thing. It's not like you're writing for the same artist, the same song over and over again. You're writing for vastly different kinds of artists.
Mm-hmm.
And different genres, almost different era sounding, and when you start doing that, it feels like a hobby, because then the other song that's in your brain and working through that tomorrow is so different than the one you worked on today, and I think a lot of people think of, when you think of somebody who's addicted to their profession, most of the time you're thinking of them in like a cubicle, grinding through numbers, and that's just not what we do. So it's exciting every day,
And I think that's the reason why artists come up to me trying to make like the next song, because I don't follow trends. That's a thing that I kind of not do, since I'm not listening to what's going on out there in the world. I mean, I do listen to what's going on out there in the world. I do go into the charts and see what's popping and see what's going on, but I try not to. If I'm gonna have a session with an artist, I try not to do something that the artist already did, and I try to maybe take him out of its comfort zone and try to do like another style of or rhythm. And it's worked with me a lot. When going in with, first time I went in with Carlo G, instead of doing like a reggaeton track or stuff that she already does, we did like a regional
classics,
Mexican,
yeah.
or some cumbia stuff, or some Si Antes Te Hubiera Conocido, which is like a merengue. I try to find like different angles to try to, do something different with the artist, because at the end of the day, for me, it's about making a song that feels natural and different than to just make another record for a big artist. Like,
yeah, but there are a lot of people who say they don't follow trends and don't sound relevant. They sound like they're off on on an island, how do you not follow trends and still sound relevant?
I mean, there's a trend, obviously, like we were talking before the interview, like peso, like peso pluma, and which is the style of corridos tumbados, and I'm into that, and if I go with an artist like Peso, I want to do that with him, I want to try to get that, because for me that's something different. But it's also interesting trying to trying to understand that world, and that's when I think magic happens, when you do stuff not knowing the rules of the genre,
Yeah.
and like breaking the rules, or not doing like the norm of what you're supposed to do in a bachata song, or the norm that you're supposed to do in a merengue song. Like, I'll give you an example. Like bachata, merengue has like a saxophone playing all the time, like very very like
Yeah.
musical. And when we did this record with Carl, we didn't put a saxophone, not because we didn't want to do it that way, but because we weren't feeling it that way. We're not trying to follow something that's already been done. We're trying to do maybe like a different style, of like a modern way of interpreting that same genre.
Do you in a general genre of Latin music where tradition is a huge part of it, do you get pushback when you choose to break rules like that?
A lot. The first time I experienced that, it actually like hit me really hard, because I wasn't familiar with those type of comments, and the first artist that I started working was on that style was like Christian Nodal, who's a mariachi artist. He's at the time when we started working, he was like 18 years old or 19, 18, I think it was like 17 or 18 years old. It's a really young kid. We were writing like urban songs and then turning them to mariachi.
Cool.
So the melodies were different, the lyrics were completely different. And I remember the first song that we put out, that the song went viral, and it did great. And a lot of people, the OGs, were saying like, this is like disrespecting the genre. This is not the way we write songs for mariachi. Mariachi music is supposed to be poetry, is supposed to be this, and you're talking about, banging the girl or whatever that, and you know what I mean? Like the different styles of writing, and the melodies are completely different to what they were used to. And I kind of was like a little bit, like concerned that I might be doing something wrong for the genre, or that I might have been like disrespecting somebody or something, or at the end of the day, it's just like, we are just trying to do music for the newer generation to listen to it, not for the old generation to continue to listening to this artist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
of course.
we're aiming for a new audience, and at the time I wanted mariachi music to be like the cool stuff that the kids are listening to, and not like the old stuff that my grandpa was listening to, So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of that, yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. You were born in McAllen?
I was born in McAllen, Texas, yeah.
Okay, so McAllen's it's a border town ish, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
It's,
shout out to my friend Brian, who was in the FBI there.
oh, shout out to Brian.
Okay, so
FBI in McAllen?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he has stories. Okay, that's totally besides the point, but that's my connection to McAllen. McAllen's is an interesting place because it really is a melting pot. It's a lot of Mexican tradition, a lot of, it's a lot of immigration, and it's also a lot of Americana, and it's Texas.
Yes.
Tell me about being raised there, and tell me from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in McAllen but raised in Mexico.
Okay.
It's very common to be born in the US and kind of live in Mexico.
Are you first generation?
I'm a second generation. My grandparents immigrated to the US. My grandfather was like a construction worker, and work at like my mom would work on the fields like during summers with with my grandpa and everything. So I'm a second generation. My mom's first generation, but my dad is he's Mexican. He was born in Mexico and in the other side of the border. So when my parents get married, they lived in Mexico, but since my mom was a U.S. citizen, uh, my whole family, my brothers and my brother and sister were born all in the U.S. and then we kind of like migrated to Mexico, which is like 5 minutes away.
Right,
It's
exactly.
not that big of a
Right,
deal.
right.
And we would go every day because my grandparents who moved to the U.S. They were living in the U.S. side of the border. So for me, it was just like going back and forth every day to the U.S. and Mexico, U.S. Mexico, and
Wow.
yeah. So
Uh, what kind of music were you listening to growing up? What did your parents play in the house?
my dad is a musician. He's part of a band, and I would listen to a lot of his records. It's a lot of Colombian music. My dad would listen to a lot of stuff like boleros or vallenatos, and it's a lot of stuff. Then I realized that it was the best schooling for me because when I first got to Miami, I had a lot of knowledge that I didn't know it was in me. You know, and
Yeah.
when I was in the artist working, when I was in the studio working with artists from Colombia or from other parts of the world,
Yeah.
they would talk about artists, and I'll be like, oh yes, yes, and this record that this artist did, and they were like, how do you know this artist? It's like, oh, my dad would listen to a lot of that stuff because my dad would kind of like do the same thing as I do. You know, I think I inherit that passion for music and record collection because my dad had a huge record collection too, and it was just like my dad. The memories that I have is just like every night my dad was just like in his home studio, just like listening to music.
When
He would
did
just
you
go in there and listen to music.
when did you write your first song?
Professionally or just like
Just
writing
at
my
all.
first song.
Yeah, just like when you're younger.
I think it was like 6 years, 6 years old.
Do you know what the song was?
Yes, and I still remember the song, and it's like, yeah, no,
How does it
it's
go?
no, no, don't, I don't want to do this. No, but it's a, I would play around, I would play along because I would see my dad record and do, you know, all this stuff. So I had like a little record player and like a recorder, my bad, with a small microphone, karaoke kind of stuff, and I had like a tom, like a little snare, and I would just like hit it and write songs. And I've been looking for that tape for so long. Haven't been able to find it, but I remember the songs that I would write and like sing there and be like. But they were just like songs that they make no sense.
But you were 6. Of
Yeah,
course they don't make
they,
sense.
they were
You were
about
6 years old.
about a teddy bear that I had
Yeah.
and a hamburger that
Yeah.
like making friends and stuff like that. I remember the lyrics were something like that. And
Did you play those songs where from even that age were you starting to play songs for your family? Was it like I imagine growing up where your dad is a musician recording that it was encouraged for you to write your own and show people the songs, or did you write it and not
no,
show
I mean
anyone?
I kind of wrote them and kept them for myself.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah.
When did
I
you
mean,
start playing for people?
uh, well, actually, like when I was like 10, we had a band, but it was just like we would play covers for like Green Day and Soda Stereo, which is a Argentinian band, and or Maná covers from for you know, and I do have that CD, and it's me singing horrible, and that's I think that's one of the reasons why I don't sing my demos nowadays, and I don't sing because I was trying to sing when I was like 10 years old, and I remember playing that over and over, and I didn't like my voice at the time, and that kind of like created maybe like some insecurities in me, and trying to be like an artist or trying to be like a frontman. So I was like, if I ever do music, it'll be like writing songs or doing it for other people, but not for myself. Like I would never be singing. Like it's not something that I'm into it.
There's a long history of A-list writers who are not good singers, and that seems really hard to fathom for me. How does somebody who doesn't sing well, how can someone who can't sing well write a good song?
I mean, I can sing. It's just that I don't like my voice. You know,
Oh, so it's a preference. It's
I
not
think
a
it's a
matter of you
preference.
being
Yeah,
able
I
to
mean,
sing.
it's like I can record a song on my phone and I can write a song myself. Like I have 100%ers that I kind of just like grab the guitar and write a song and send it to it has to be an artist that I have a lot of confidence sending
Yeah.
my voice, my vocal thing, and it would be probably just like on my phone. But I usually try to have an artist. I usually try to have a writer that can sing in the room whenever I'm like co-writing. Like I prefer to have a writer that can sing the demo for me.
Yeah, interesting. When you go through high school, and I know you played a few instruments, and guitar was your main instrument, right?
Guitar was my main one, yes.
I know you were looking at Berkeley and whatnot. Was there a desire to do specifically Latin music, or were you just looking to do music at that point?
It was just music. It was, yeah. I think I was just trying to figure it out. I was in the marching band when I was in high school. I played the saxophone and I would compete. I was like one of the best saxophone players in Texas, alto sax. So I know how to read music. I know how to do, I used to play jazz with when I was in school. And when I was in college, in order for me not to lose like a scholarship that I was getting, I was supposed to be putting in more than 20 hours a semester in school. And I remember I was going for electrical engineering and I had like 19 hours and I needed one more hour to kind of like fill it in so I wouldn't lose my scholarship. And I saw what could be something that wasn't too time consuming or difficult. And I saw like classical guitar and I was like, you know what, I'll just put classical guitar in there. So I went into the guitar classes and I've kind of realized that was more like my passion instead of electrical engineering. Like I wasn't enjoying studying electrical engineer.
Was that hard for your parents? I mean, or were they encouraging you to be into music, or were they encouraging you to be an engineer?
No, because since my dad is in the music business, so he was so encouraging. Yeah, he kind of like supported me a lot on that. And my guitar teacher was the one that told me, you should, do
You're
music.
good.
Yeah, you're good at playing classical guitar and everything, and you should go. I remember he used to be University of Miami, but over there in Texas, he had moved to Texas because he was from Texas. And he told me like, why don't you audition to or Berkeley or Juilliard or whatever it is. Like, I was like trying to go to Juilliard, trying to go to Berkeley, like trying to make it like up there. And that was actually like the first time I ever hopped myself on a plane was when I was like 19 years old. That was the first time me being in a plane, flying to Boston, and auditioning for Berkeley. And I remember doing the audition and
was this? Were you playing? You were playing guitar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was playing some classical stuff with guitar and some Bach stuff. And so I went there. I auditioned, and the week later, I remember like the response was supposed to come in like 3 months after the audition, and it came like a week after, and I was like so excited that, oh my god, I got into Berkeley. And then I was like, maybe this is a mistake because they were supposed to notify me 3 months after the audition. So I called Berkeley and everything, and they were like, no, they usually do this so that you won't go to another school, and that way you don't audition to like, I don't know, like
Miami,
or Juilliard or whatever it is. So they really want you to come over, and they're accepting you like right away so that you can make plans for school. Yeah. So I ended up not going because it was too expensive. It's way too expensive of a school. You need to be rich to go to Berkeley or get a full ride scholarship.
There's a difference between, hey, you should go and study guitar, or being the next Coltrane or whatever, and then there's a huge difference between that and I'm now going to write music, and then that path. How do you get to, I'm not going to Berkeley because that's too expensive, to Miami where you're starting to like pursue the business?
My parents were the ones that told me like it's so different to study music than to actually be in the studio. It's like two different stuff.
Yeah.
And I decided to do an internship before going to Berkeley so that I would kind of get the experience of what it would be to be in the studio 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And I just cold emailed a producer that I saw in the credits of an album that I was currently listening to. I found him on Facebook and I DM'd him and everything, and I asked him if I could go to his studio. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to. He wasn't able to do it because he wasn't doing like anything specific at the time. But he recommended me to another producer that actually got me to Miami to do an internship with him. So
When people hit you up and they send you cold emails or DMs, do you respond?
yeah, I mean, if I have if there's like an interest or something that I see, like if I hear something that catches my attention, I do respond. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, not to jump ahead, but you're you're a real record exec now. You know, you have your own label and publishing company.
Yeah.
You know, uh, do you find those people, or do those people find you?
It works a little bit both ways. Um, the people that I have right now, one of them, yeah, one of them kind of like was looking for a place to be like. He wanted to find like a producer or a writer that can probably help him out with. Because the thing is, I don't actually like sign people. I don't try to do that. I try to teach them how to do their own business and own their own stuff. And I make a business for a certain period of time with the publisher that they end up signing with. It's a really weird structure that I figured out that it's been working for me because I try to respect writers and try to, instead of signing them for a certain period of time and owning their copyright for their publishing song or the publisher, I help them out build their own publisher. And if I take them to Sony or to Universal, to Warner, Cobalt, whatever it is, like I'll make my business with Sony or Universal, Cobalt or whatever it is. Like I try to make the business with them and not the writer. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
I found
To keep them safe.
to keep them
Yeah.
safe and to have them build their own publishing company and own whatever they're writing. Because I don't this is something weird that I've been seeing a lot. I mean, I'm 34 right now, and I don't have maybe like a huge like a lot of years in the music industry, but I've seen that a lot of writers don't understand what they sign when they sign what they
Of
sign,
course.
and you can make their careers for them, and then they'll be like 5 years ahead, or after 5 years they'll be like, man, this guy, he fucked me over. He has all the rights to my publisher. And it's like, yeah, well, that's what we agreed at the time. They're like, yeah, but I didn't know what I was signing. So I try to teach them how to avoid that, because I don't want to have that reputation of, oh, this guy, he tried to steal from me, or he tried to keep my publisher, whatever. So I'm very like open to the writers and teach them like, well, you have to build your own publishing company. We do this. Okay, so probably nowadays writers go looking for an admin deal, but they don't have nothing to administer. So they're looking for like a huge advance. Everybody's looking for a huge advance. And then they're like, what songs do you have? And they're like, well, I don't have any songs. So it's like, well, what can I admin if you don't have any songs? So the way I've taught them how to do is like, well, do a co-publishing deal with the majors instead of doing an admin, because you have nothing to admin. So co-publish, they'll own a portion. I'll get into that side of the business with the majors. You keep your portion of the publisher. I don't touch your portion, but I do touch whatever
Of course.
major is dealing or whatever the deal is. So I try to, teach them how to do that. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. That's it's been working for me. It makes me sleep at night. So
And this is I say this on this a lot, that I use Nashville as an example, where I always say that Nashville, all the songwriters have children, and in LA, all the songwriters are children. And it's our responsibility to teach them how this works, so they know, in the same way, like the funny way to say it is like, so they know how they're getting screwed,
Yeah.
how not to get screwed. If you go into it and you're really educated about it, then you can, in the future, when you're upset, at least you were taught. I try to draw out, maps of, this is what a song looks like. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And try to really help educate that, so they're in on the game from the beginning. So I hope that's what our generation is doing, because that's the difference. When you talk to some of these people who did deals previous to 1971, when the laws were changed, all those people have no publishing. They never had any of it. Like they just didn't, and they never got it back, unless they were, have savvy people who can get into reversion clauses and all these things that we don't have to get into right now. But it's fascinating how the classic writers that you're talking about from, a different era on those vinyl records, they don't own their publishing.
They don't own it,
Somebody
yeah.
else owns it, and they never got an opportunity because a lot of them passed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's just that was the business. So
yeah, and
it's
for me,
helpful.
I try to do the right thing, because when I started off my writing career, they taught me how to do it this way. So, I mean, the person who kind of like brought me into writing and everything, like the writer, he's a big writer, and instead of him signing me to his publishing company, he taught me how to do my own publishing company. So,
Classic.
it's paying back. I've never been signed to any other writer or producer, or like, I've always been like the type of writer that, and I try to give back what I was given, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Totally. All right, so in 2011, you start getting your cuts, and you're starting to get a lot of cuts.
Mhm.
And it seems like when you work in a project, you dive in, and all of us have the, we always talk about how we want to be in with the artist, because that's when you can really dive in. But usually, you go in and you do 2 days here, 2 days there. There's no way you're doing 10 songs on multiple albums if you're doing 2 days here, 2 days there. At that point, in the beginning of your career, are you choosing your sessions, or did it just work out that way?
No, at the beginning, I was actually doing a lot of stuff that was just like coming in through the door. 2011 was when I got to Miami. I was interning. I was just doing everything that was just like coming in. Everything, every single thing. Even stuff that I didn't want to do, I was doing.
Yeah.
I was doing all the work that maybe that, a producer didn't want to do, maybe, or stuff like, I don't know, remixes for radio stuff. Like, oh, there's this song that's popping right now. They want us to do like 3 versions of the song, because the
Yeah.
radio needs a cumbia version, they need a pop version, they need a reggaeton version. So I was the guy doing all those versions in the studio, which it helped me, you know, w- find my sound and my producer sound, and but I was just trying to survive in Miami. I was just trying to make a buck over there, and Miami is expensive, and
It is.
it
I
is.
mean, but 1 year later, you're working on like legends, like, even though she had passed already, but like the Selena stuff,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I'm assuming your parents were involved in, as knowing that they understood the industry, but there's one thing when you're working with, decent sized artists, and then there's one when you're working with like the artist of
Yeah.
all time kind of thing. Working on Selena, even
Mhm.
if it's after she passed, what did that mean to the family?
That was the first plaque that I ever got, and that's like one of the plaques that my parents have in their house, because Selena is from Texas, and we grew up listening to her music, and the way that came, I was just being an intern in the studio, and trying to you know trying to do everything, and for me that was probably, like, at the moment I was so young that maybe I didn't realize the impact of what I was doing at the time. Maybe like I was working with people like Juan Luis Guerra or Alejandro Sanz, and just like being there in the studio, being an intern or doing, because I started off also as being an engineer, being the runner, being the guy that does everything in the studio. And it also, nowadays, it makes me realize that you value everything that comes nowadays. Not you start to value everything that comes to you because you've done all that hard work in the past of serving coffee, bringing the food, being this and that.
Totally.
So, yeah.
We have to talk about Prince Royce, because that is that's the first Latin album I'm on.
You were there. That's true. You were in that album.
I'm on Soy El Mismo, and I'm on Double Vision. I wrote Double Vision, and I wrote Stuck on a Feeling, and Stuck on a Feeling might be my first pop top 40 song. I'm pretty sure it was, because like I'd had a couple songs that like had glimpses of radio, but that song I think went to top 15. And I just remember looking at what the other people are doing in this world, and when we talked in the beginning, I listened to mostly Spanish music.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel at home. My family moved from my grandparents moved from Hungary and Romania to Nicaragua. And over summers, we used to listen to Gypsy Kings. Mm-hmm. And something about that in my head is my comfort place. And so it was like, it's one of those things where I'm writing, you just walk through open doors. Wherever the doors are, you just walk through. Mm-hmm. And so to end up on Prince Royce, who, is getting nominated all the time, you just, at that time, you kind of learn who everybody is in the thing. So it's kind of early on in your career too. Obviously, like we're very different.
I mean,
paths.
I didn't have I didn't do the single on that album. It was
didn't either.
I had an album cut, and I was that was, for me, that was one of the first songs that I have, pitched to an artist or getting recorded, and that was huge for me at the moment. And it was during the CD era.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, there were still moments. But anyway, it was just like, I just like that we have like these degrees of separation that are closer than we think. Anyway, so going after that, because also there's this Latin music then versus Latin music now is so different. Mm-hmm. Latin artists at the time were trying to cut songs that are in English. And one of the things that you've done really well, timing-wise, whatever it is that now American radio plays songs in Spanish. In the beginning of your career, when American radio is super separate from Latin radio, did you feel obligated to write songs in both English and Spanish?
I remember during that era, there were a lot of camps going on, and I remember writing a lot of Spanglish songs, like Spanglish songs that we didn't even know who the audience for the songs were. And this was before Despacito and all that stuff. This was before that huge hit, kind of like tweaked a lot of what the music is doing right now. And none of those songs, the Spanglish songs that we were doing at the moment, would connect with the audience for some reason. Like it was like who's your target audience? Like it's maybe like it's. Having a Spanglish record it's for me, it's harder to kind of connect than having like a full Spanish or a full English song.
Yeah, it ends up in no man's land.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody who speaks Spanish doesn't want to listen to Spanglish, and anybody who speaks English doesn't want to listen to Spanish in that way. That makes sense. But you even worked with legends like Tony Bennett.
Oh yeah.
How?
I don't know. I don't know how that came to me that just I don't know. It's just God putting me stuff in front.
Tapping into your, your jazz background and being a saxophone player, do you immediately, when you have names like that, does your head just snap into like some, a different mindset than when you're working with, Carol G later, that kind of thing? It's
Yeah,
like it's a whole other world, it feels like.
I didn't know that. That's like the innocence of when I started off working. Like the person that called me for this was actually like this was the label is hitting me up to do this Spanish versions of Tony Bennett because he was gonna do an album with Latin artists where Romeo Santos was gonna be there, like Chayanne was there, Mark Anthony was there, Vicente Fernandez was there. Like it was a really big album, and I was just an intern, and I don't know how I even got that job.
It's so
And
crazy.
I mean, maybe, I mean, I'm gonna say this, but maybe it was because since it was just like a work for hire kind of thing, a lot of the big writers at the
Yeah.
moment didn't want to do it, and maybe they were like, "Oh, we need to find like the next writer that might be willing to do this for a work for hire thing." And because that's a work for hire thing, by the way. That's
No,
not,
but this is a big a truth that people don't want to really talk about, which is that some writers I know, when I started working with bigger artists, some writers I know that couldn't get in with those bigger artists could work with these other projects that I wouldn't have been able to do because I was like, well, I could be in this room with this guy. Why am I going to go in there? And those writers got to work with those artists that blew up and far surpassed some of the writers and artists I was with. And you just never know. It could be that you're the intern that's like, oh, will you work on this Tony Bennett album?
yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, I guess, because sure, I'll take the check. And Miami's an expensive place.
Yeah.
And then it opens up the door. I'm going to skip forward to Maluma.
Yes.
Like, biggest artist on the planet. At that time, it's like, I don't know, how do you get introduced to Maluma?
Because I was working in the studio with Andres, who's a very big Colombian producer, and at the time he was producing for Carlos Vives, and Carlos Vives' manager Walter was about to sign a new act from Colombia, like a young act, and I remember he came to the studio and asked Andres if he was willing to do a session with Maluma, with this new artist that was coming from Colombia. And he was like, yeah, sure, like come bring him over. And the sessions were supposed to be with other writers. He actually had 2 sessions with 2 other writers at the moment because I was still being an intern at the time. I spent like 3-4 years being an intern. 3 years maybe. That's a long time. And I was still there like learning and trying to meet a lot of people and people that came to the studio. And that was an opportunity that came to my attention because he was downstairs writing with 2 other big writers and the producer who I was working with, and I was upstairs making some ideas just to pitch, just to see if something happens. And I remember when Maluma left the studio that night, I went downstairs with the producer and I told him, well, I was working on this while you guys were writing. Do you want to listen to it? And he's like, yeah, show it to me. And I had the hook written down and the production of the song. Played it for him. I told him this can be a good idea for something. This sounds like Colombian, like Juanes type of stuff. Juanes is another artist from Colombia, and he would do stuff that sounded like Huasca, which is like a certain style in Medellin, where Maluma is from. So I was trying to get a little bit of the culture vibes into the reggaeton track, and so I came up with this idea, this track, and this hook that I played for the producer that night, and he actually liked it. He's like, "Well, that sounds interesting. Let me send this to Maluma." He sent it over to Maluma that night, and Maluma was like, "I love it. I want to record it and finish this track whenever I go back to Miami." And he was back in Miami like a week after, and when he came back, we did the song. Him and I had a lot of chemistry in the studio, and also like we went out there to play soccer and do stuff like not only like just like music. And he came back, we did that record. 2 days later, it comes back, we do another record. So the records that he ended up going to Miami for with other writers never came out. And the record that I did with him, the two records that I did were the ones that came out. That was actually like uh, one of my first radio singles that actually like made me feel like, oh shit, like I think I'm doing something, you know, like it's happening now. You know, I have a radio single with a new artist that's popping, that's actually like becoming something big. Being a part of something like this for me, that was huge at the moment. And then years after, like him and I reconnect in a session here in LA with Timbaland. So weird. Timbaland, his camp calls me over to a session here in LA. I didn't know who the session was for. They just told me it was a session with Timbaland. And when I come into the session, 5 minutes after Maluma walks in, and it's, what are you doing here? It's like, what are you doing here? It's like, oh no, they called me to a session with
Tim.
Tim, yeah. And that's where we reconnected like a year later, because I was just an intern, like I said, in the studio where I was working. That was just a cut that I got, luckily, as luck or whatever it is. And I wasn't supposed to have like the number, the artist number. I wasn't allowed to kind of have communication directly with the artist unless the producer who I was working with brought him back to the studio and had the opportunity. So in that session where I was with Tim here in LA, we reconnected, and that's where he tells me like, "Yo, like, you wanna hop over on tour with me and just like make music?" I'm like, "Dude, yes, please." It's like, "Are you still working as an intern?" Like, "No, like I stopped doing that. You know, I moved on. You know, I'm doing my own thing right now." He's like, "Perfect. Come over with me and let's just like write and make stuff." And then like months later, I'm in the room with Madonna and Maluma, and it's just crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Writing in Miami versus Texas versus LA. How does that influence writing Latin music?
It influences a lot because in Miami, 90% of the people speak Spanish. And I feel that it's perfect to do Spanish music. When I come here to LA, you just like said something very interesting, because I'm always here trying to do cuts in English or something like is not Latin for some reason. In my head, it's just like the switch kind of like does that.
Do you
And
think in English when you're in LA?
I never think in English at
Never.
all. No, not at all. Spanish is my first language. It's just like I don't talk English like at my house nor anything. It's just like whenever I'm doing stuff like this with you.
But why is your how is your English so good?
Because I went to school in the U.S. because it's the
Right.
border. I did elementary and intermediate and high school in the U.S. But I mean, also being at the border, like in school, it would be like Spanish. It's just that teachers would talk to you in Spanish.
Right.
It's like kind of like being in Mexico, but being in the U.S. side.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I don't know. I think it. My mom, she's really fluent in English though. My sister actually, my sister. I think my sister. I had this conversation with my family the other day, and my sister was saying that she talks in English in her house with her husband, and it's like weird because I don't. You know, I just Spanish is my first language, but when I'm here in LA, I'm always trying to do stuff like for pop or for something in English for some reason.
Through 2017. I mean, you've so many cuts that it would take 6 years to go through the amount of cuts you have. But you work at like Cinco right when they're doing their or CNCO, whatever.
CNCO, yeah.
You know, you like there's all this hype around that being the next crossover kind of thing. At that point, you had hits in Latin, but you were so close to having a hit in pop. Do you feel like you need to have hits in both?
Yeah. At that time, yes, I was feeling like I need to do this crossover, and I was actually during that time I was coming over to LA a lot, a lot. That's where I met Joe and Ricky Reed
Yeah,
back in
Bomacero. It's like
2016.
right.
Yeah, I was just like doing stuff because I was trying to. I met Ricky at the Latin Grammys, and it was really weird because the story is super weird because I didn't know who Ricky was, and he didn't know who I was, obviously. But he was at the red carpet, and he was just like standing there, like being there. And I had just won like a Grammy for this song that I had written. And I don't like to do interviews or be like doing red carpets or stuff like that. And so I tried, I saw this guy like just standing there, and it was Ricky Reed, and we just kicked it off. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I'm a writer. I just got this Grammy for this song. It's like, what about you? It's like, oh, I'm a producer, but nobody like knows who I am here in the Latin music and this and that. And it's like, oh, what have you done? And it's like, oh, I'm Ricky Reed. And I'm like, what? Oh shit, like and it's like, then he was like, we went into the award show. He was sitting like right next to me, and then that the day after we were heading out, I was flying out back to Miami, and we bumped to each other at the airport again. And he's like, dude, like this is not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like let's exchange numbers, and you wanna come to my studio in LA? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. And that's where I met Joe, and I've been hearing a lot from you like since then, everybody, and it's just like being here with you guys again. It's just like it's special for me.
Let's go to Shakira real quick. I did a session with her. She showed up in pajamas and you're like, or like a sweatsuit thing. You're like, this is Shakira. She's the most stunningly beautiful human on the planet. How did you, at this point you've made superstars with Maluma and some of these other people, and you've worked with Madonna and all this, but Shakira is like the she seems like the pinnacle, at
Yeah.
least from an American who knows who Shakira is and has worked with her. You know, what's the difference of working with a superstar versus somebody who's unknown?
I was I was I was introduced to her by Maluma, actually. And that's where, I go on tour with him, and one of the sessions was like, we're going to have a session with Shakira. And I was supposed to go in with Maluma, do this song with her. And I've always been a fan of her music. Like for me, it was like the day I work with Shakira, the day I do something with Shakira, it's gonna be insane. Like for me, it's gonna be like that, cherry on the top. And so I was supposed to do a couple of days with Maluma and Shakira, and then Maluma left me in Spain because that was when she was living over there in Barcelona. And we got in together, and Maluma's like, okay, so I recorded my vocals for the song that we're doing together. I gotta go. You gotta stay. And I was supposed to stay for like a couple of days. I ended up staying for like a whole month over there, like maybe 3 weeks or a month. It was just like, for me, it was like living the dream working with Shakira, because I got to do that record, and then we started to do more music and more music and more and more. And I got to sit down and write with this huge legend, who I'm a big fan of. And she's taught me a lot. She's taught me a lot on the producer and my producer hat or whatever it is, that she is so good at what she does that she knows exactly what she wants and what she doesn't want. And if she tells you to lower a kick 2 dBs, and if you send her the track without doing that, she'll notice it.
That's amazing.
She's a genius. For me, she's a complete genius.
I think people don't realize that they want to believe that the narrative that pop musicians are somehow given the opportunity and that it's not earned. And especially the women in pop had to fight through so much more. Like, you worked with Ari. We'll get to the Ariana Grande stuff. She edits her own vocals.
She does. Yeah.
Like, I don't think people realize how good the female pop stars are, and even, especially compared to the male pop stars where somehow the narrative is that they're more hands-on, and my experience is that a lot of those are less skilled. I don't want to name names, but you work with Madonna and Ari, and to go through that, like, what's it like working with pop versus Latin superstars?
You know, I learned something here in LA, that the culture here in LA is different. And I learned it very early in my career. And I'm happy that I did learn that. Is that the sessions here in LA are people going in the room to actually do a song and do music. Over there in Miami, whenever you go to a session, like you see like writers taking pictures and, you know, like posting that, you know, I'm here in the studio, and it's, or writers that are just like texting while you're writing a song. And for me, that's super disrespectful, you know. And when I came over here to LA, working with you know, this big legends, I realized that producers go in there and do their job, and they don't waste time. They're not on their phone, they're not taking calls, they're not doing anything. And it's, I learned that very early in my career, and it helped me, you know, being in a session with Madonna, for example, that, you know, learning how to behave in the studio, because nobody teaches you how to be the producer in the studio, how to read the room. Not everybody knows how to read a room, and that's tough. And like with Ari, it was, for me, it was an experience, because, and that's shout out to Tommy Brown that brought me into that session. I'm eternally grateful with Tommy for that, because I wasn't supposed to do a session with Ari. It was me and Tommy working on stuff for Maluma, because Tommy wanted to do stuff in Latin, and he wanted to bring in Maluma to LA. Maluma was so busy with touring that Maluma was like, yo, you go ahead and do this session with Tommy, and whatever you guys do, you send it over to me, and if I like it, I'll cut it. So I come over to LA for 2 days, a 2-day session thing. It was like a Thursday and Friday thing. And we vibed so well in the studio, Tommy and I, and Franks, who's another producer that's part of his team. And that we were just like doing a bunch of stuff. We were doing tracks and tracks and tracks, and doing, I was top lining to a lot of them and sending them over to Maluma when Maluma was liking most of the stuff. And then Tommy was like, when the session finished that Friday, he was like, what are you gonna do this weekend? I'm like, no, I'm flying back to Miami, back home, you know. It's like, well, do you want to stay? Like, to do what? And she's like, well, Ari's gonna come to the studio tomorrow and to do some stuff that she needs to do, just so that you can meet her and whatever. And it's not to work with her. We're not gonna do any music. She's just gonna cut something that she needs to do for her album. And you can just be here chilling. I'm like, bro, please, yes. What am I doing tomorrow? Being with you.
Here.
It's like, I'm gonna be here.
I'm an intern.
I'm an intern. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, I'm super grateful with Tommy, because nobody does that to somebody that they just met 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I stayed there. She came over to the studio. I met her. It was at Tommy's place, Tommy's house, and I was just, you know, like I said, it's important to know how to read the room. I stepped out of the room when I felt I needed to step out of the room. I just went upstairs and waited for them to finish the session, to just kind of like chill and be there and let them work, let them do their thing, and not be so invasive or so, you know, trying to get a cut out of something. I wasn't there for that reason. You know, I was just there because Tommy invited me to kind of just chill and vibe, and that's what I was going to do, just chill and vibe. And we started doing like this sessions back to back with Tommy and Franks. We did a bunch of stuff together. That one of them ended up being Boyfriend, which was the track that she cut. And I remember the day we were there in the studio when Tommy played her the beat. She wasn't supposed to be there for the session. She was in the studio doing an interview for Vogue, or I don't know what it was. And it so happened that I was there earlier working on this track with Franks and Tommy. And she heard it, and she came up with the hook, like in 2 minutes, and she cut it right away. She wrote the whole thing by herself. Like, she wrote the lyrics. I was just doing the track with Tommy and Franks. I didn't work on anything. And when I saw that happening, her writing and cutting, I just stepped out of the room because I wanted her to feel comfortable and not mess anything up. But I was hearing from the outside that she was cutting out the vocals, and she was editing out the vocals and everything. So, and you start to realize, that's the reason why she's a superstar, and that's the reason why she's where she's at, because she puts in the work, and she's actually passionate about what she's doing, and she's not in here for the wrong reasons.
She's not just showing up to this session. She is the session.
She is the session.
You Bam Bam, speaking of Ricky Reed,
yeah,
featuring Ed Sheeran, Camila Cabello, former and the writer is guest. That song is like one of those songs that really crosses over.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a moment for you where you feel like, have you scratched that itch yet? Is that the thing that scratches the itch?
That's one of them. Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah, for sure. That was a fun session. That was Ricky calling me up for that, and just jamming in the studio. It was just, Ricky has this way of working that for me was a new way of doing music. It's just jamming.
Yeah, it's making music with friends.
Yes.
And then that's a whole, like,
it's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe.
Yeah.
We have so much to go through. I'm gonna just bolt through some more. But Grupo Frontera. The first time I heard it was probably around 2022, like during we were still kind of in quarantine because we had a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember hearing that and loving it. And you signed them, right? Are they signed to you?
No, they're not signed to me. No,
or you
no.
just are close to them. How did you get involved in that?
I'm kind of like their mentor.
Got it.
And like the first records that we put out, I was trying to sign them, but then the guys. This is going back to what we were talking earlier about signing people and being like, I don't like to feel like I own somebody. It's not the way I want to do business as. So they treat me very well. That's all I can say. Like, they treat me very well. They're not signed to my label. The first records that we put out, I did put them out through my label.
Got it.
Because they were like the first records that we did, and they ended up making the decision that they want to stay independent. They don't want to sign to a label, and I respect that a lot, because I wasn't trying to work with them or work with an artist from my hometown to own it or to own their assets. I was trying to do something for the culture, for my people, for my people in my hometown, to try to make them feel that if I can do it, you can do it. If it's you just gotta put in the work, and just gotta be passionate about it. And the first records that we put out, we put them out through my label. And then the rest of them, I've been kind of like serving as a mentor, as a consultant, as their executive producer, 100%, and as their main songwriter and main producer. So I'm kind of like, it's like a project that I feel like it's very like my own project, maybe, I don't know. And working with all these artists, who we've been collaborating, has been just like insane, like Shakira jumping in a record, Bad Bunny jumping in a record.
It's wild, man. But it's also, this is, going back to the Prince Royce era again, where it's like we're aiming for this middle ground. I'm writing all English songs on the same album, and in this era, it's, an artist at that time was like Becky G, who was, in the system here, that's like, we're gonna have you doing Spanglish or English, and by the time you're working with these, fast forward 10 years, and you're working with these artists where it feels so authentic, and authenticity in this era is everything, and you're bringing that out, working with Becky G and helping her kind of I mean, you're really working with her at the pinnacle, or working with Carol G. How does seeing them being their authentic selves, be successful as them,
Mm-hmm.
how gratifying is that?
Very gratifying. I mean, and that's something that uh, now that you say all this stuff, I'm kind of like getting like a flashback of when I was trying to find myself as a producer too. Because at the beginning, we all start off trying to be somebody else. And when all this stuff starts to happen with the Grupo Frontera stuff and doing, stopped trying to be a producer that I wasn't. I was trying to be like trying to do urban music, and I'm not. This is not who I am. I wasn't raised or born in Puerto Rico, or I'm not Colombian, or I'm not. I'm Mexican, and I gotta be proud of where I come from. I gotta be proud of my roots, and this is who I am as a producer. And when I kind of realized the value that I had without trying to be somebody that I wasn't, was when I kind of like did, like boom, like it nailed. And that's where Grupo Frontera stuff happens, where we at the beginning I tried helping them out because everybody dreams of being signed to a major and all this stuff. We pitched it to a lot of majors, and most people before they blew up, they didn't see it. They were like, this is too raw. This is too raw. This is too, I don't know. I don't want to say like too Mexican or
It's too
whatever it is.
regional.
It's too regional. Yeah. It's like, what, how does it feel modern? It's like, well, the lyrics and the melodies, and that's the modern part of it. It's like, yeah, but sonic wise, it feels like the same thing that they were doing in the 90s or the early 2000s. I'm like, yeah, but you're not getting it. It's like the way we're writing songs. It's like, yeah, it's just a song. The people were like, yeah, but it doesn't sound like something fresh. It sounds like something that's already been done. And I was like, a lot of people try to convince me to kind of move on and don't do the grupo stuff. But then, for a while, I like, we lost communication early in the career, because the story is that the band played for a tire inauguration for my brother-in-law in Texas. So the band wasn't famous. They didn't have any hits nor anything. It was this local band that my brother-in-law hired for this inauguration, and there were like 15 people in the party, and nobody was listening to them. And I have this video of one of the guys telling, because I'm like the family member that is in the music industry, and they were like, oh man, tell your brother-in-law to listen to this band, to sign them and to help them out. They're gonna be huge. And I have like this policy, not policy, but whenever I'm at home with my family, I don't like to talk about music, because I just want to feel like at home, and I don't want to be like the producer, the writer at home. It's just, I'm just a regular person. I take out the trash. I wash dishes. I do what all of us do. And so we don't talk about music. And my brother-in-law was like, I know you don't like to hear this, but I need to tell you that this band that I hired for my inauguration, they wanna meet you. It's like, man, like I don't want to do this. Like, no. But then, parallel to that, my wife had to get a surgery, like a major surgery, at the time, and I was going to be spending some more time in Texas. So my wife was like, "Well, maybe you have an excuse to be in Texas. Why don't you give it a shot? Give it a shot, and that way you have an excuse to be here. I take care of my recovery from this surgery, and in the meantime, you can be doing something here. That way, you're not bored and feeling like you're missing out something in Miami." I was like, you know what? Yeah. So the day of the surgery, before going to the hospital, I stopped at a Starbucks to have a meeting with the guys. That's where I met them. I do this meeting for like an hour. I met the guys, and I liked them. And it was like, yeah, you guys are authentic. You guys are, I like you guys. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah. And yeah, my wife did the surgery. A week later, I'm trying to figure out what songs I was going to give to them. And that's where I started. That's where everything started, and that's when I realized, like, we need to, I needed to be authentic. I needed to be proud of who I am, as my roots and my culture and everything. So
Peso and Ivan were my number one and number two most listened to artists last year. It's just it takes you somewhere. I think this is the whole thing about being authentic to a region that's also not where you're at. You have an opportunity as a listener right now to be anywhere in the world. You don't have to listen to the music that is popular where you are. It's the vinyl that's in your dining room is on your phone for most people.
mm-hmm.
And whatever it is with both those albums, like, just like, they're incredible. They're just bring you somewhere. But there's nuances and difference. Well, also Peso's voice is just like,
oh yeah,
his
so
voice.
unique.
It's so unique. But everything you've done up until now, like we were saying, it's like it all leads to this current moment where you're nominated for Songwriter of the Year this year because of the fact that everyone in the world listens to these albums.
Yeah.
Seeing the rise of your genre, your authenticity from that, like, that kind of Starbucks meeting, but kind of like from that to the biggest artist in the world. What's it like to see your art be the biggest art in the world?
It's crazy. Like, I'm just trying to be the guy that helps connect dots at the end of the day. And it's so exciting to see that, people are connecting with what you are doing, especially like an artist like Peso, who is so unique. And I met Peso way before, like, it actually blew up, which also helps. It helped a lot in understanding him as an artist. I had a session with him before a lot of the songs that became huge hits actually became like big records. And being with him in the studio, that's where I realized, like, this kid is different, and this is gonna be huge. When I saw him, I told everybody that was who I was with, and I keep on saying it, like, you gotta be different, and you gotta being different makes you do stuff that and the way he's doing it's because whenever you're in the studio with the band, it's not only him, it's like the whole band, because he has a band. Peso Pluma is like a band. It's just that he's the singer of the band, and the guys are so talented. The way the guy Parca plays the upright bass, the tololoche, and the requinto and the charchetas, and when you see that, you're like, this is like progressive rock music. Like, it's actually people that know a lot about music, and they have a lot of experience playing on shows, on playing live, and his success came at his perfect moment, because he's an artist that it doesn't happen overnight success. Like, he actually has been working this sound for a while, and that's something that it's very important for artists to understand, that they just want to become viral and get this 10 seconds on TikTok and become the next big thing. And they don't understand that there's a lot of work put, behind an artist like Pesos, and the way he resonates and connects with artists like Travis Scott, or artists like Drake, or whatever it is, that you see. And it makes me proud as a Mexican, to have an artist from my country represent us as Latinos, and I've always told him this, and he's, for me, he's like my brother, and I'm proud of him. I'm really proud of him. Really proud of what he's doing, and the way he's putting it out there in Coachella. That moment stage in Coachella, it's like it's very important for us Latinos, especially nowadays. With everything that's going on, to have an artist like him being representing us.
I'm gonna go to the next segment. I'm gonna just mention 5 things. Just tell me what comes out the top of your head.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna start with Maluma.
Brother.
Miami.
Second home.
Oh, so McAllen being first.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're gonna go with pop music.
My dream.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, here you are in LA, and you have the craziest discography in the world. I mean, we have it's it's like the Latin version of Max or Ashley Gorley or whatever it is. It's crazy. Why is pop music your dream?
It's something that I probably grew up listening to a lot of pop records by Max Martin. I'm a huge fan of Max Martin, and I worked with him before, and I just couldn't be myself. When I worked with him, I was just so like starstruck with him.
He's so sweet, though.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. He's amazing. He
Yeah.
was joking because somebody introduced me to him, and he's like, "Oh, he has all these Grammys and stuff." He's like, "Oh, I mean, at least you have more Grammys than me." I'm like, "That's not about the Grammys, bro." Like, I admire him so much, and the way he's done that impact in pop music, and he's been like one of the writers that I look up to a lot. I mean, Quincy Jones is another producer that everything that he's done in the past, and it's a big list of writers and producers that I admire a lot. But pop music has always been this thing that I've always been chasing. I don't know why. Even this past week, being back in the studio with I don't want to say the artist, but this certain artist that I work with, we're trying to chase this pop record for some reason. I don't know why. And maybe the pop records that I've had are the ones that I've had with, Frontera and Bunny or Karol G. Because at the end of the day, what's pop music? It's music that's popular, and we're actually making music that's being popular at the moment. But for me, I still have that in me that I want to work with an artist like, I don't know, like Sabrina Carpenter, maybe, an artist like that, just like being in the room, because I want to have that experience of what it is to make a record like that. I've done all this. Yes, I've done this, but I haven't done this.
Yeah. Latin music.
Oh, my passion.
And then last, your daughter.
Oh, love of my life, man.
One, I appreciate you doing this. The podcast. I know you're a busy guy, and this has been a crazy couple weeks for you, but it's great having you on.
Thank you.
Great seeing people. There's a reason why. I think people assume that the ego of the people who are in the studio who are on their phone taking the picture that annoy you because they're disrespectful in the session. Those people will struggle to survive in this industry longer than 2 years. And the people who succeed in this business are respectful of each other. They listen to other people. They ask questions. They're not there to talk only about themselves. And you are a humble person who doesn't always talk about himself. And I just appreciate you being so open. And I'm excited to have this be the first of many interviews.
No, thank you for having me.
You are a legend, man. I really
thank you so much.
You
No, and I mean, I'm excited. I kind of don't do a lot of interviews, but I'm very proud to represent like the hardworking Latinos here in the U.S. and that it's possible, to accomplish a dream. This is my dream, and I'm living the dream. the American dream. It's possible. So yeah, I'm just proud to be here with you guys. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. It was produced by me and Joe London in association with Mega House Music Group. If you like this episode, go give us a rating at wherever you listen to your podcast, and make sure to follow us at And the Writer Is on all your socials. We'll see you next week.